And my name is Patricia Sanford, and I'm the director of the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Lab, where we are holding this event. Thank you so much, the folks that are here in person, and for the folks that are joining us virtually. I hope those of you who are here in person have had a chance to meet our director, the Jefferson Patterson Park Director, Ron Cookfield, standing in the back, and Eric Frere, our Deputy Director. We are so pleased today to be able to be with the Doepkens family as they receive the Maryland Historical Trust Preservation Award for Stewardship for their donation of the Middle Plantation Archaeological Collection. And we are just really excited about this fabulous collection that has come here to the lab, and happy to be able to share that with you all. I apologize for the temperature. Both of our chillers are down, and so I'm going to keep my remarks short. I would like to say that the Doepkens family has brought copies of this report that William Doepkens and the family wrote on the Middle Plantation excavation, and he's got some here for sale. If anybody's interested, raise your hand, please, Fred. Okay. All right. So, and then I would also like to read this proclamation from Anne Arundel County Legislative District 33 that the family received earlier this week. The Maryland General Assembly official citation: be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to the William P. and Marjorie Doepkens family in recognition of your award of the Outstanding Stewardship of a Cultural Site. Thank you for your commitment to Maryland's heritage. Congratulations. Presented the second day of May, 2025, by Delegate Stuart Schmidt of Anne Arundel County Legislative District 33. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Julie King, who is a professor of anthropology at St. Mary's College of Maryland. And Julie is the person who wrote the nomination for this award. She has the distinction of having first worked on this site as a teenager growing up in Anne Arundel County. So it's perfect that it's come full circle. Julie?
Thank you, Tricia, and thank you, Doepkens family. It really is full circle. So I just have a few remarks because I know Jean has the biography, so I'm going to do the biography. But I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to be involved with this and why I thought that this project really needed recognition. So I first met your dad, Willie Doepkens, and the family, including his wife Marjorie, when I was in high school. I had already made the decision to pursue archaeology as a career. You know how you do when you're little, I'm going to be an archaeologist, I'm going to be oceanographer. And then I never grew out of it. My dad had grown up with Mr. Doepkens, and he knew about his project excavating the Marine Duval plantation site. So off I was shuttled to the Doepkens farm, not far from my family's home in Anne Arundel County. My mom had already taken me to Williamsburg to meet Ira Noel Hume. My parents, this was before I read his books. My parents, you archaeologists know what I'm talking about. My parents were great about encouraging my interest, and Mr. Doepkens was great about pushing the curtain back on Anne Arundel County's colonial history. Willie Doepkens, if you didn't know him, was an amazingly curious person. He could have mined artifacts out of the ground, as many people might have done, but he determined to do it as professionally as possible, consulting the experts. Perhaps his greatest achievement as an archaeologist was the ability to maintain horizontal control without fancy instruments. His second greatest achievement was recognizing the ephemeral traces of post buildings, and the investigation that he and his family undertook contributed enormously to the classic and in many ways still very fresh essay that Colonial Williamsburg's Carrie Carson wrote about earth-fast architecture in the Chesapeake. An amazing publication in 1981, and almost 50 years later. And his third achievement was publishing a report of his findings. And the point is, he took archaeology super seriously. Mr. Doepkens brought to light Marjorie Doepkens, a French Huguenot or Protestant who came to the Maryland colony in about 1650 as an indentured servant. Duval, who on his arrival was about 25 years old, earned his freedom in 1659 and embarked on a remarkable career, accumulating thousands of acres of land, including in 1664 Middle Plantation, and he probably didn't have air conditioning either. At his death in 1695, Duval was one of the wealthiest men in the colony. His real legacy are his descendants. Mr. Gordon Duval is here today, a descendant of Marie Duval, and doesn't live too far from the home place. And my second grade teacher was Miss Dorothy Duval, and today, in addition to Mr. Gordon Duval, they're the two that I know. And I looked online, and there's like a Duval attorneys in Annapolis, and they're everywhere. I'm going to leave the story of Mr. and Mr. Doepkens' work at Middle Plantation to Jean. I was there at times, but Jean and her siblings were there every day, first person reporting. Instead, I want to acknowledge the family, Jean, Marjorie, Frederick, and Elizabeth, and their late brother, William. I know Jean best. We took George Miller's material culture class together when we were both undergrads at St. Mary's College. And I remember all the pipes from Middle Plantation Jean was working on. Mr. Doepkens' 5 children were his crew, his shovel bums, to use the song of my people. Archaeology is a collaborative endeavor, and the children helped excavate the site, wash the artifacts, catalog the artifacts, label the artifacts, prepare photographs, prepare drawings, and everything in between. Their final act is to donate the collection to the state, and by that I mean the citizens of the state of Maryland. When Jean first reached out to me, she was adamant that the collection be used to teach students and people more broadly about Maryland's history. Students, she emphasized. I told Jean I know the perfect place. I'm not biased or anything. The Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory. I shared with her all the public-facing work the MAC Lab is renowned for in our profession. Diagnostic artifacts, curator's choice, public archaeology, the high school archaeology club, the fellowship named for my mom. Tricia Sanford and her staff did the rest. The public-facing work and the behind-the-scenes work that ensures these collections will be there long into the future for our children, grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. The family was sold, but they were already sold because of the strong service ethic their parents had instilled in them. That history, all of it, warts, no warts, cool stuff like plate figurines, less cool stuff like thousands of brick fragments, all of it is in the public interest and should be shared. The MAC Lab can do that, and it can do that because the Doepkens children have made it possible. Thank you to Jean, Marjorie, Frederick, and Elizabeth, and their late brother William for stewarding the collection since the loss of their parents and for bringing the collection to its new home. These materials have been around for almost 350 to 400 years. Now they'll be around for at least another 300 to 400 years. So thank you very much, Doepkens children. I'm so excited to be here with you on this important day in Maryland archaeology.
Thank you, Dr. King and Dr. Sanford. Good morning, my name is Elizabeth Hughes. I'm the director of the Maryland Historical Trust, and I serve as Maryland's State Historic Preservation Officer. I'm so pleased to be here on this beautiful May day with so many folks in attendance. Thank you for coming out. Since 1975, the Maryland Historical Trust Board of Trustees has honored the outstanding preservation efforts of individuals, businesses, nonprofit organizations, local governments, and others who protect, steward, and share the historic places and cultural heritage that make Maryland unique. It's in that same spirit of recognition and gratitude that we're presenting this year's Maryland Preservation Award for Outstanding Stewardship of a Cultural Site to the family of William P. and Marjorie Doepkens, whose remarkable dedication has safeguarded one of Maryland's most significant archaeological collections for future generations. More than half a century ago, on a quiet stretch of farmland in Davidsonville, a curious farmer noticed patterns in the soil, just subtle shifts in color and shape that are very easy to overlook. Doepkens saw something more. What followed was a decades-long endeavor led not by professionals, but by a family who understood the power of the past and the importance of doing the work right. Between 1968 and 1990, the Doepkens family carefully excavated, documented, and preserved the archaeological site of Marjorie Doepkens' 17th century middle plantation, an estate once home to one of Maryland's most prominent early settlers, a former indentured servant turned landowner and merchant. The results of their work are nothing short of remarkable. Over 50,000 artifacts, detailed field records, and extensive photo documentation that have earned praise from professional archaeologists across the region. William Doepkens approached his work with the rigor of a trained archaeologist. He collaborated with the best minds in the field, as we heard from Dr. King, documented every find, and published a comprehensive final report that was typed by his wife Marjorie on a typewriter at the family kitchen table. Their children, too, who are here today, were deeply involved by sorting, cataloging, drawing artifacts, ensuring that the work became not only a labor of love, but also a shared family pursuit. And now, in a final act of stewardship, the Doepkens family has donated the entire collection to the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory, where it will live on to educate, to inspire, and to connect future generations with our shared past. On behalf of the Maryland Historical Trust, I'm pleased to present this Outstanding Stewardship of a Cultural Site Award to William and Marjorie's children, Jean Doepkens Wright, Marjorie Doepkens Salyers, Frederick H. Doepkens, and Elizabeth Doepkens Yuan. Congratulations, and thank you for your stewardship and really extraordinary gift to the state of Maryland. So if you'd all come up, please. So I'm going to turn the podium over to the family, and I'm going to take a seat.
Good morning. On behalf of the Doepkens family, let me begin by thanking Julie King and Tricia Sanford for nominating our family and the Maryland Historical Trust for presenting us with this preservation award. We wish with all of our hearts, however, that our late parents, and here they are, and our brother Billy could be with us today. When Billy suddenly passed away last October, we siblings were considering what to do with the Marjorie Doepkens artifacts stored in our farmhouse basement. Julie King was naturally the first person that I thought of contacting. She knew our father back in the day and was well acquainted with what we called the dig. I stressed to her that our priority was that the artifacts be used for educational or research purposes and not just stored away in some back room of a museum never to be seen again. Julie contacted Tricia, and we are so grateful that led to our donating the artifacts to the Maryland Historical Trust and that they are now safely here at the MAC Lab. It seems appropriate today to share a little of the backstory of the lives of our daddy, as we call him, who was the son of a German immigrant farmer, and Marjorie Doepkens, who was a French Huguenot settler, and how their lives became entwined, as well as telling you a little bit about our family's supporting roles in preserving a significant piece of Maryland history. William P. Doepkens, there he is, his little grin, or Willie, as he was known to neighboring farmers, only spoke German when he started attending a local one-room school, and his formal education ended when he finished the 8th grade. However, his inquisitive nature led to a lifetime of learning, as he surrounded himself with books, newspapers, magazines, and was always reading something in his den in the evening, and collecting things that he found on the farm. In 1954, he and our mother, Marjorie, who grew up in Upper Michigan, were married and raised 5 equally inquisitive children on the family farm that eventually he inherited. 3 of us became career teachers, 2, 3. And one became a career government employee at the Naval Academy. And our recently deceased brother followed in our father's footsteps, becoming the faithful steward of our family farm that was designated a Maryland Century Farm in 2019, which means, of course, that our family has lived there for 100 years. When our shared property tenant was plowing land that we rented on a neighboring farm in the spring of 1968, one of the plowshares was set too low and unearthed ash and brick rubble, along with what appeared to be chicken bones. Daddy couldn't understand why there was a perfectly round hole in the center of each white chicken leg bone. But being inquisitive, he consulted his good friend, Tom Meyer, a local historian and amateur archaeologist, who identified them as colonial clay pipestem fragments. Daddy's pursuit of an answer could have ended then and there, but it didn't. Subsequent heavy rains that year revealed a plethora of more pipe stems, along with shards of pottery and other artifacts, including flints and things like that, that the deep plowshare had unearthed, leading him back to his friend Tom, who concluded that Daddy might have discovered the Marine Duval plantation dwelling site. Eager to find out if it was so, the next spring, Daddy purposely plowed the rented field with a deep-set single plowshare, and then walked each furrow, placing a tobacco stick wherever he saw discoloration or disturbance of the soil, prompting our school bus driver to comment that he thought our Daddy had lost his mind planting tobacco sticks in the field. So began, though, Daddy's 22-year pursuit of digging up the past, starting with, of course, archaeology fieldwork, guided by such notable mentors as Carrie Carson, Gary Stone, and Henry Miller, then of the St. Mary City Commission, and Tyler Bastian, who was then state archaeologist. Some advised him on excavation techniques as he wore down trowel after trowel, and we have them at home to prove, down to little notes, and took pictures and made field notes, while others assisted identifying artifacts and suggesting who might know more about certain artifacts. Daddy would work all day on the farm and then headed down to the dig, where he often worked until sunset. But his day still was not done. As he came home, he had to wash the artifacts and before getting a bite to eat, and then he would wind up in his den and guess what? Reading every Arundel book there was. Of course, we also joined Daddy on his quest when we weren't in school, often walking the fields after a rain using our well-trained eagle eyes to find surface artifacts. And once, when I got in his hair when he was digging in a rather small pit, he sent me off to a different tobacco stick to dig, until eventually I lost interest. But in his book, he describes all the neat things I found and named them. When Reese King, Julie's dad, brought a bulldozer to the dig to remove centuries of overburdened silt over the original plantation spring, the bulldozer, unfortunately, became stuck in the spring's quagmire. Later, though, we remember our mother, who often joined Daddy at the dig, practically up to her knees in that same mud, digging nearby and finding a hand mill stone. It was also in that general area that Daddy found the Madonna and Child pipe plate figurine that's on display out in the lobby today. The dig was definitely a family affair at times. I spent summers marking pipe stems with a quill pen and India ink. 18 AN 46. Trust me, it's embossed in my head. Over and over and over again on all 20,015 pipe stem fragments. After our mother marked the numerous shards of pottery, that was her job, Daddy categorized them, and my siblings, Margie and Billy, who both had a real knack for solving jigsaw puzzles, spent tedious hours day after day in the basement sorting and gradually piecing together various types of pottery that evidenced wealth. Eventually, after the discovery of graves, Daddy came to the end of the tobacco sticks, marking the soil disturbances. As Arundel Hume reminded him, digging was only the beginning. So he entered the research phase, determined to prove he had found Marjorie Duval's dwelling site. He would spend rainier winter days at the Hall of Records in Annapolis, learning how to locate maps and documents. Some of them, I guess, were on microfiche still then. And then taught himself how to read the old script. He also sought out neighborhood old-timers to gather their recollections of the area. But when he discovered Harry Wright Newman's book, Marjorie Duval of Middle Plantation, you would have thought that he had found the Holy Grail. Mind you, he was still farming, but then in the evenings he was studying deeds and using his first-hand knowledge of the neighboring woods and landmarks mentioned in the deeds to overlay the boundaries of Middle Plantation on a county soil conservation map. He also carefully mapped the post holes and connected the dots to form outlines of buildings. Sometimes he dictated letters to our mother, who conveniently was a former secretary, who sent them to faraway places like London. And he made long-distance phone calls, which then you had to pay for, trying to find additional information. There was even an exciting trip to colonial Williamsburg with boxes of artifacts stacked in the back of our station wagon along with all 5 of us so that Arundel Hume could help identify artifacts. And then later, a trip to the Smithsonian for a behind-the-scene tour by Dick Muzzleroll, who was digging in Alexandria then, I believe, to see where the wolf jawbone Daddy discovered deep in the spring area was going to be stored as the only native eastern wolf specimen then known in existence. And I'm assuming it's still there. There were no computers, no internet, no professors, grad students, or interns to assist him at home. It was just Daddy's first-hand farm knowledge and his insatiable curiosity carrying him closer and closer to understanding Marjorie Duval and 17th and 18th century life on his plantation. During that time, though, there were some detours. For instance, before the Laval housing development was built on Marjorie Duval's 1659 first land grant patent that was named Laval, Daddy led county historians through the woods that he knew so well to the location of the abandoned first preschool established in Anne Arundel County in 1723 that has since been restored and open to the public. And you can ask Julie, or Gordon Duval, where's Gordon, who's here today representing the descendants of Marjorie Duval. Daddy never hesitated to stop whatever he was doing to give private basement tours of the artifacts to friends, neighbors, egg customers, and sometimes complete strangers who happened to be abandoned on the highway, and share his newfound knowledge with them. Eventually, though, his research led him to the task that even some full-time archaeologists dread, the site report. And he began organizing all that he had learned into a concise narrative. Naturally, it too became a family affair. Our mother typed page after page on her IBM Selectric typewriter, yes, typewriter, and then retyped page after page when he made changes, until all 237 pages were perfect. Our late brother Billy photographed artifacts, created the conjectures for the buildings, drew maps to scale, and outlined the book. Our brother Freddie numbered all the photographs and gave technical advice. I drew the pipe bowls and pipe stems, along with the wine bottles and their seals and the spoon maker's marks. And then our sister Lizzie helped. She unfortunately was the last one left at home. She helped organize chapters, edited over and over again, and proofread to make sure that our Daddy's authentic voice was ever present in the finished product. And so, his 22-year quest began with the discovery of chicken bones in an adjacent rented field, seemingly came to an end with the completion of his self-published book, the excavations of Marjorie Duval's plantation of South River Country, which he dedicated to his loving wife, Marjorie. And the artifacts were safely stored away in boxes in our farmhouse basement. In May of 1991, when the boxes or the crates of books finally arrived at the farm, there was no public fanfare, as published author was added to his life resume. Instead, it was just our family celebrating Daddy's 75th birthday. I think Lizzie made the cake. It's in German. Let's see. I lost my place. We had cake and ice cream, and not a hint of the lasting impact of his monumental achievement definitively preserved the legacy of Marjorie Duval, a prominent Maryland planter merchant. And I think it was the planter part that really appealed to Daddy, because he understood the agriculture. That is until recently, when the team from the Mac Lab came to take possession of the artifacts. As they opened boxes to catalog contents, they became giddy with excitement, like Christmas morning. We were equally thrilled to learn from them that for years, Daddy's book has been used as a reference by archaeologists and even cited in some of their reports. Sadly, though, not long after publishing the book, Daddy's health began to fail, and he passed away in 2000 and Mother in 2006. But I'd like to take this opportunity to read our Daddy's final thoughts in the book, which oddly seem so relevant today. This is what he wrote. As for me, I too have come full circle with this publication. From the spring of 1968 to the spring of 1990, I have labored through the seasons to document with as much accuracy as possible the life of Marjorie Duval on Middle Plantation. Today, the gentle southwest breeze that is stirring beckons me to step out into the cool day with its deep blue sky, just like today. It is spring and time to be outdoors. The farm work is calling. So as the winter draws to a close, so does the final chapter of this historical and archaeological account. Let it never be forgotten, as it's carved in stone on the National Archives in Washington, D.C. The heritage of the past is the seed that brings forth the harvest of the future. In closing, our thanks again to Julie and Tricia for nominating us in the Maryland Historical Trust for this award that serves as a fitting epilogue to our Daddy's 22-year quest for henceforth the Marjorie Duval legacy seed that our family has nurtured over all these many years can now be harvested by future generations here at the Mac Lab. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts.